He's a manhunter from Mars! Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Today we are going to be discussing the gloriously bizarre and extremely powerful hero, Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter recently made an appearance in the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League. He has been a hero who has been around in the comics for quite some time and has also been a long-standing member of the Justice League. Though he isn't as often featured as one of its forefront members, Martian Manhunter is still one of the strongest and most interesting members when it comes to his abilities, as well as his life, interests, and just overall story. Join me today as we get to know Jean a little bit better and dive into the top 10 Martian Manhunter facts that you need to know. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Justice League of America 1997. In the Justice League of America made-for-TV film and failed television pilot from 1997, Martian Manhunter was introduced as the leader of the team. This whole film is something. And if you enjoy watching films for like the cheese factor, this is one you might want to check out. Listening to the other supers describe Jean is one of my favorite parts of the film. They describe him as being from another world, otherworldly, and collectively stammer on about his vast knowledge, which surpasses the suppressive ideals of humanity. He's also very wise about fathering the rest of the league, and you know, he's green. What better way to describe him? Martian Manhunter here is played by David Ogden Stiers. The weird style of this film as a mockumentary almost, I also just find hilariously entertaining. Number 9. Replaced by Cyborg. While Martian Manhunter is often known as being a member of the Justice League, you might not recognize him as one of the core members yourself because he was recently replaced on the roster. During New 52, Martian Manhunter was not featured in the main lineup, and in his place was Cyborg instead. Prior to this inclusion, Cyborg was typically known for being part of the Teen Titans team, but moved up to the League during the DC reboot in 2011. While Martian Manhunter may have not been featured on the team at the start of that reboot, it would later be revealed that he had briefly joined the League years before, but it didn't work out because there were so many questions he could not answer about himself as he'd forgotten his past at this point. And friends, before we move on to that next spot, if you are enjoying this list and you want more like it where we explore maybe some of the lesser known but super interesting members of the Justice League, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. Number 8. First appearance. Martian Manhunter made his first appearance in Detective Comics issue 225. Here he was introduced to us as a detective, a manhunter from space. He was shown as being brought to Earth by the experiment of Dr. Erdel, and would go by the name, while on Earth, of John Jones. Disguised as a human, he would use his psychic Martian traits to solve crimes. In terms of his backstory, we have learned a lot more since his first appearance, and we've also watched Martian Manhunter become a lot more powerful as well over time. His weakness and fear of fire was also first introduced here as well. When applying to become a detective at a police precinct, an officer strikes a match in front of him, creating a flame to light a cigarette, which inspires fear in John Jones, Martian in disguise. Number 7. Prime Earth origins. Instead of him being an alien who was beamed to Earth as part of an experiment, Jean was given even more power against his will as the result of a ritual. This happened when he and a team were investigating a psychic warning that all of Mars had heard. Later, Jean would learn that the psychic warning came from the planet Mars's biosphere, which was dying and reaching out to seek help. However, the biosphere ultimately deemed the planet and the Martian races unworthy, and in the end killed them all. Only Jean manages to survive, being thrown all the way to Earth by the cataclysmic blast. Number 6. Green Martians versus White Martians. Martian Manhunter is part of the Green Martian race, but they are not the sole alien race that lived on Mars. There were also the White Martians. White Martians are inherently more aggressive and more of a warrior race, whereas the Green Martians were much more peaceful and kind of spiritual pacifists to an extent. The two races' different ideologies and values ended up causing a rift between them, and eventually there would be a massive civil war which would greatly deplete both races' populations. Basically, what you need to know when it comes to these two races is that they usually don't get along, and White Martians are even implied to have an inherently evil nature in comparison with the Green Martians, who are often depicted as being inherently good. Of course, as we've seen with members of both of these races, these assumptions aren't always true, with each race being capable of both good and evil. You can't judge a book by its cover. Number 5. Stranded. Martian Manhunter in his first appearance, was shown as being brought to Earth on a one-way trip by Dr. Erdel, which I was talking about earlier. He would spend a good amount of his time here on Earth, taking it in and coming to love and even fight to protect it. But he would always dream of returning home to Mars. Unfortunately, John would later discover that he had not only traveled through space, but had also traveled through time in this continuity as well, and that his people had seemingly gone extinct a few centuries prior to his arrival on Earth. This would make him the last surviving Martian. Or would it? I feel like that's like Superman when he's like, I'm the last Kryptonian, and then it's like, but also this person, and that other guy. Number 4. Miss Martian. What I should say is it was believed that Jean Johns was the lone survivor of his race until we met Miss Martian. Megan Morose, or Megan Morse as she goes by with her Earth name, is another Martian hero who would later appear in the comics. She initially appeared to also be a member of the Green Martian race, but would later be revealed to be a white Martian in disguise. She came to Earth after learning of another Martian who lived there. Instead of randomly being teleported through space and time to arrive, Megan was sent off Mars when she was young to protect her. On Prime Earth, Miss Martian is also Martian Manhunter's niece. In the New Earth continuity, Megan also met a future version of herself who belonged to the Titans Tomorrow team and called herself Martian Manhunter. So lots of ties to Martian Manhunter depending on which continuity we're talking about. And with DC, there are so many continuities to keep track of. Number 3. Biscuits and Oreos. Something you might not know about Martian Manhunter, but you definitely need to know, is that he has a love of a certain Earth treat. While they are never explicitly called Oreos in the comics because of trademark and copyright issues obviously, the cookies that Martian Manhunter loves the most happen to resemble Oreos quite a bit. Chocos, however, are the generic substitute name that DC tends to stick to here. Chocos are of course 2 chocolate biscuits with a layer of white icing-like filling in between them. Chocos! Man, now I want Oreos. More recently in the comics within the last 10 years, we have also learned of another food that Martian Manhunter seems to love: biscuits. In his self-titled series from 2015, Martian Manhunter was even given the name for one of his personas of Mr. Biscuits, although even that version of him also enjoyed eating cookies because, well, cookies are delicious. Number 2. Split personalities. Speaking of biscuits, it was also revealed in the 2015 run that Martian Manhunter over his years on Earth had split himself into different personalities, in a bid to forget his past and also convince himself that somehow Mars could have survived by allowing himself to play different roles. So he basically like tricked himself into thinking that, you know, there were Martians, but there weren't. Sad. Eventually, he would resolve these personalities by realizing the truth of why they all came to be, accepting himself, and would inevitably acknowledge that each of them was him. Number 1. His family. Jean Johns would also be revealed in both main continuities to have had a family back home, and at one point he would even be manipulated into believing that they were still alive and that he lived with them on Mars, as he used to do. But he would end up discovering, of course, that this was not real and merely a psychic illusion intending to sort of manipulate him. Back on Mars, before leaving, Jean Johns had a child, a wife, and he even had an evil brother who sometimes pops up every now and then, known as Malifa. The new 52 version of his brother is red, whereas the Prime Earth version of him was green with chains, but both versions are pretty despicable as both are responsible for causing a mass extinction level event in each continuity respectively. Basically, you don't want to mess with his brother. And in Prime Earth, I think it's actually his evil twin brother. Mwahaha. What do you think are some of the most interesting facts about Martian Manhunter? What do you think are the most important things about him that people should know? If you could travel back in time and visit Mars and the Martian races, would you do so? And if you were going to do that, who would you bring along with you? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Things You Need to Know About the Anti-Life Equation. CQ Tacombe comments, this is the equation that we should be taught in algebra class. I mean, I feel like if we were taught this in algebra class, our brains would probably like explode, because I don't think you can like handle the anti-life equation if you're not Darkseid, is my understanding of it. So it wouldn't be good for us, but we could learn it. We just probably, it would end tragically. Just a peaceful man who's born in 1980s responds, no wonder Darkseid is obsessed with that. With the anti-life equation, he'll be unstoppable. That is exactly it. He would be unstoppable. He'd be able to make everyone do whatever he wants. It's nuts when he gets the anti-life equation. It is some scary stuff. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and feels shouted out in a future video. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.